First contact, fatal mistake. The void between stars had never seemed so small to Supreme Commander Sec. From the command bridge of the Resolute Conqueror, flagship of the Kier Empire's 7th Expansion Fleet, he watched the holographic display of the unassuming yellow star and its collection of planets. The third rock from the center glowed blue and green, marked with swirling white clouds, a perfect prize. Life signs are abundant, Commander reported his science officer, Loran. Her 6-fingered hands danced across the control panel. Oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere, extensive water bodies, and a dominant species with rudimentary technology. Rudimentary Tezak-scale brow ridges raised in interest. The Keller Empire had conquered 17 systems in the last century alone, bringing primitive species under their rule for labor and resources. It was practically a routine by now. They've barely left their atmosphere. Lurin confirmed some primitive satellites. A small orbital station. Nothing that could detect our presence at this range. They still burn fossil fuels for energy and fight among themselves over territory. Sack's mandibles clicked in amusement. Another easy conquest. Then the Emperor will be pleased with such a resource-rich world. As with standard procedure, Tessak ordered a closer reconnaissance mission. 3 stealth scout ships, detached from the main fleet. Their adaptive camouflage, making them virtually invisible to the primitive scanning technology the humans supposedly possessed. Estimated time to reach observation orbit, 6 hours, his tactical officer announced. Tezak settled back in his command chair, his forearms relaxed. Another world for the Empire, another species to add to their collection. The military exercises were almost becoming predictable. But 6 hours later, when the first scout ship should have been reporting back, there was only silence. "Sub-Commander, where are the scouts?" Tezak demanded. "Sir, we've lost contact with all 3 vessels," the communications officer reported, his voice betraying concern. "Last telemetry showed them approaching Earth's outer atmosphere. Then, nothing." Tezak's relaxed posture stiffened. "That's impossible. Their technology couldn't possibly detect our stealth systems." Before he could issue new orders, a transmission alert flashed across his command console. "We're receiving a signal," the communications officer said, surprise evident in his voice. It's coming from outside our fleet, not from Earth." "Put it through," Zach ordered. The holographic display flickered, and a figure materialized before him. It was a Regent, scales worn and faded, one eye replaced with a crude cybernetic implant. The species was known for their mercenary work across the galaxy, but this one looked like he'd seen more battles than most. "Keeler vessel." The Regellian spoke, his voice raspy. "Turn back now." Sock's mandibles clicked in irritation. "Identify yourself, Regellian. You address the 7th Expansion Fleet of the Kilder Empire. My name is Vexilor, once High Captain of the Regellian Conquistadors." Now he gestured to his battered appearance. "A survivor and I bring you a warning. Do not engage with the humans." Laughter rippled through the command bridge. A single battered rebellion warning off an entire fleet. It was absurd. "Your concern is noted," Tezak replied dismissively. "Now clear this channel before." "You lost 3 scout ships already, didn't you?" Vexilor interrupted. The bridge fell silent. "How did you know that?" Tezak demanded. "Because the same happened to us," Vexilor said. "And the Cricks stole before us. And the Cricks stole before them. The humans, they are not what they seem." Tess leaned forward. "Explain yourself." "We had a fleet 3 times the size of yours," Vexor said, his good eye narrowing. "We thought as you do. Primitive world, easy conquest. We lost everything. Not just defeated, hunted. The humans don't just fight wars. They end them permanently." "Your failure does not concern me," Zach replied. "The Kelder Empire has never known defeat. Nor had we," Vexilor said quietly. 5 standard years ago, we approached Earth with 27 warships and the best technology in 3 sectors. Today, I'm the last of my fleet. The humans, they let me live to warn others." Chill ran through Tezak's exoskeleton, but he shook it off. This was obviously a ploy. Perhaps the humans had captured this Regellian, broken him, sent him as psychological warfare. "If these humans are so formidable," Tezak challenged, "why do they appear primitive? Why hide their capabilities?" "They don't hide," Vexilor said. "They just don't think the way we do. Their technology isn't unified or standardized. They innovate chaotically, unpredictably. They were splitting atoms while still burning coal. They were exploring quantum physics before they cured basic diseases. They develop weapons before they understand the consequences of using them. He paused, the cybernetic eye flickering. But that's not what makes them dangerous. It's their tenacity. When we destroyed 3 of their cities, we thought they would surrender. Instead, they fought harder. When we blocked their communications, they created new ones. When we deployed biological weapons, they developed cures in days, not years. They adapt faster than any species I've ever encountered. Zack waved a dismissive hand. Every species fights for survival. No, Vexlor shook his head. Most species fight until the cost becomes too great. Humans fight until they win, no matter the cost. And once they start fighting, they don't stop until their enemy is not just defeated, but unable to ever threaten them again. Is that what happened to you? Tezak asked. They destroyed your fleet and sent you as a messenger. They didn't send me, Vexlor said quietly. I escaped, but they're hunting me still. I won't last much longer. That's why I'm here. One last attempt to save another species from making our mistake. Even if what you say is true, Zek said. Why would you help us? We are not allies. Because no one deserves what the humans will do to you, Vexlor replied. Not even the Kier. Before Zak could respond, a junior officer rushed to his side. Commander, we've detected energy signatures launching from Earth, the officer reported urgently. Hundreds of them rising from multiple continents. Impossible, Tezak snapped. Their technology is not what you think, Vexlor finished. It's too late. They've seen you. Battle stations, Tezak ordered. Prepare defensive protocols, Commander, the tactical officer interrupted. The objects are not matching any known weapon signature. They're small, too small to be warships. On the display, hundreds of tiny dots rose from Earth's surface, accelerating at speeds that should have been impossible for such a primitive species. What are they? TZ demanded. They appear to be drones, Len said, her voice uncertain. But the energy readings are off the scale for their size. Vexler's laugh was hollow. And so it begins. Goodbye, Commander. May your gods be merciful, because the humans will not be. His transmission cut off abruptly. Sir, the drones are changing formation, the tactical officer reported. They're surrounding the fleet. Open fire, Zak ordered. All batteries, target those drones. The Calder fleet weapon systems blazed to life, energy beams slicing through space. A few drones were hit, exploding in brief flashes of light, but the rest moved with impossible agility, evading the barrage. Sir, they're attaching themselves to our outer hulls, an officer reported, panic rising in his voice. They're boring through. Warning lights flashed across every console as system after system began to fail throughout the fleet. The drones weren't just attacking, they were infiltrating, disabling ships from within. Isolate all critical systems, Tessak shouted. Seal emergency bulkheads. But it was too late. Ship after ship in his once mighty fleet began to drift, power cores shutting down, life support failing on the Resolute Conqueror's own bridge. The lights flickered as emergency power kicked in. Commander, Lyran said, her voice eerily calm. We're receiving a transmission from Earth. Put it through, Tezak ordered, bracing himself. The holographic display showed a human, unremarkable in appearance, wearing a simple uniform. Behind the human stood others, their expressions grave but determined. Keldari vessels, the human said, speaking perfect galactic standard. This is General Maya Chen, of the Earth Defense Coalition. You have entered restricted space and demonstrated hostile intent. We are giving you one opportunity to surrender and withdraw. We are the Keeler Empire, Tezak responded, drawing himself up. We do not surrender to primitive. We intercepted your communications with Vexilor, Chen interrupted. He was right about us. You should have listened. You know the Rigelian, Tezak asked, surprised momentarily, overcoming his anger. We've been tracking him for years, Chen replied. He's led 3 different invasion fleets to us, hoping we would destroy them instead of finding him. A clever strategy, but ultimately futile. Tezak's mind raced. The Rigelian had tricked him, used the Kier as a distraction for his own escape. Your drones are impressive, Tezak acknowledged, stalling for time while his engineers worked to restore the fleet systems. But they cannot stand against the full might of the Kiri Empire. General Chen's expression didn't change. Those aren't our drones, Commander. Those are our scouts. The actual defense fleet is just now leaving orbit. The tactical display updated, showing thousands of larger vessels rising from Earth's surface and the dark side of its moon. A hidden armada far larger than the Keldari fleet. This is your final warning, Chen said. Surrender or be destroyed. Tsak looked around his bridge at the failing systems and the grim faces of his crew. The Empire had never faced such a situation. There were no protocols for surrender. And if we surrender, he asked, you will be allowed to return to your empire with a message. Earth is off limits. Any future aggression will be met with total war, not just defense. We will take the fight to your homeworlds. Tsak's pride rebelled at the thought of returning in defeat, but the alternative was annihilation. Vexer's warning echoed in his mind. They don't just fight wars, they end them permanently. We will withdraw, Tessek said finally. But know this, human. The Empire does not forget such insults. Chen's expression hardened. Neither do we, Commander. Neither do we. As the transmission ended, Tessek slumped in his command chair. For the first time in his long career, he had retreated without firing a shot. The Emperor would not be pleased. But as he watched the human vessels take up position around his crippled fleet, Tsak had the disturbing feeling that he had just saved the Kir Empire from extinction. The humans had let them go this time, but he had no doubt they would remember every detail of this encounter. The Rigelian's warning had come too late to save his pride, but perhaps it had saved his civilization. Set course for home, he ordered quietly, and prepare a full report on everything we've learned about humanity. Underestimating humanity, the Grand Council chamber of the Kir Empire had never been so silent. 7 solar cycles had passed since the humiliating retreat of the 7th Expansion Fleet, and Emperor Krastok himself had convened the emergency session. Sreme Commander Zok stood at the center of the chamber, surrounded by the stern faces of the Empire's highest authorities. You retreated, the Emperor stated, his voice carrying no emotion, which was far more terrifying than anger. The Keller Empire has conquered 17 systems in a century, and you retreated from a single world of primitives. Tezak held his ground. With respect, Your Eminence, they were not primitives. Our intelligence was catastrophically wrong. The holographic display activated, showing images captured before the fleet systems had been compromised. The swarms of Earth drones, the hidden fleet, and most importantly, the scans of human technology that didn't conform to any known developmental pattern. The humans don't develop technology linearly, Tezak explained. Most species master planetary travel, then near-system exploration, then FTL. Humans developed nuclear weapons before they had reliable planetary flight. They created artificial intelligence while still burning fossil fuels. Their technological progress is chaotic. High General Vashid, the Emperor's most trusted military advisor, leaned forward. And you believe these anomalies. Make them a genuine threat to the Empire. I do, Tsak said firmly. More than that, I believe they are already aware of us beyond their system. The Rigelian Vexlor, the mercenary who tricked you, Vosh interrupted with disdain. He did not trick us about the humans' capabilities. Tejak countered only his motives. And according to the humans themselves, he has led multiple fleets to Earth, seeking to use them as distractions. Which means the Emperor finished, that other species have attempted conquest, and failed. How many? Unknown, Tsak admitted, but the human general mentioned at least 3, including the Rigelians, and given their technology, I suspect they've been gathering intelligence from these encounters. The Emperor's 4 eyes narrowed. You're suggesting they've been reverse engineering alien technology? I believe so, Your Eminence. Their drones contained elements reminiscent of Krixt, but modified, improved. If they've been harvesting technology from every species that challenges them, the implication hung heavy in the chamber. Then we cannot allow them to continue, the Emperor declared. If these humans are as adaptive as you claim, they represent an existential threat to the Empire. Not today, perhaps, but eventually. I agree, Tezek said, which is why we must approach this differently. Not as a standard conquest, but as he hesitated before using a term rarely spoken in the council chamber, as an extermination. Murmurs spread through the assembled dignitaries. The Kielder conquered, enslaved, exploited, but extermination was reserved for only the most dangerous threats. "You propose genocide, Commander?" the Emperor asked. "I propose survival, Your Eminence." The humans made their intentions clear. Any further aggression would be met with total war. They would not stop at defending their world. They would bring the fight to us. The Emperor was silent for a long moment, then nodded. "Prepare a full battle plan. You will lead our response, Commander Zek. Not as punishment for your retreat, but because you have seen these humans firsthand. You understand the threat." "Yes, Your Eminence." Tezak bowed deeply. "I will not fail the Empire." But as he left the chamber, Zak could not shake the feeling that they were still underestimating their enemy. 6 months later, the largest fleet ever assembled in Kier history entered the Sol system. Not one fleet, but 3, approaching from different vectors to surround Earth completely. This time, they bypassed stealth entirely. This was to be a show of overwhelming force. On the bridge of the new flagship, the Imperial Judgment, Tezak watched the tactical display with grim determination. The fleets had timed their arrival precisely, emerging from FTL simultaneously to prevent any warning. Surprise was essential. But as the ships decelerated to combat speed, Tezak felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. "Commander," his tactical officer said, voice faltering, "we're detecting structures." The void around Earth was no longer empty. Orbital platforms surrounded the planet in multiple defensive layers. The moon's surface bristled with what were clearly weapon emplacements. And between Earth and Mars, something massive was under construction. A ring-like structure that dwarfed any shipyard TZ had ever seen. "How?" Zak whispered. "It's been only half a year. This level of construction would take decades." "Sir," the communications officer interrupted, "we're being hailed from Earth." On the display appeared the same human from before, General Chen. But now she stood in what was clearly a military command center, far more advanced than what humans should possess. "Commander Tezek," she said, not bothering with formalities. "I see the Calderary Empire has made its decision." "As have you, General," Tezek replied, gesturing to the orbital infrastructure. "You've been preparing for war." "We've been preparing since your retreat," Chen confirmed. "Though I must thank you for the warning." "Warning?" Tezak's mandibles clicked in confusion. "Your ship's databases weren't as secure as you thought," Chen explained. "Before we allowed your fleet to leave, we downloaded everything. Fleet movements, technological specifications, cultural information. Everything we needed to understand the Calder Empire." Zak felt as though the deck had dropped beneath him. They had known. All this time they had known the Empire would return. "You still cannot stand against 3 full fleets," Zak said, trying to project confidence he no longer felt. "Perhaps not," Chan acknowledged. "But we're not alone anymore." The tactical display suddenly lit up with new signatures. Ships emerging from behind Earth's moon, from the asteroid belt, from high orbit around Mars. Ships that were definitely not of human design. "Impossible," Tezak breathed. "Those are Krix toll vessels, and Jolari and allies," Chen said simply. "It seems the Keller Empire has made enemies throughout the galaxy. Enemies who were happy to join forces when we reached out to them." Tez's mind raced. "The Regilian Vexlor, you captured him." "Eventually, yes, and he proved quite informative about galactic politics." Chen's expression hardened. "You're not the only empire that's been conquering worlds, Commander. But you might be the last." Tuzak knew then that they had catastrophically miscalculated. The humans hadn't just been preparing defenses, they'd been building alliances, creating a coalition against the Kier. "This is your final chance, Commander," Chen said. "Return to your empire. Tell your emperor that Earth and its allies will no longer tolerate conquest. Any aggression against any of our worlds will be met with united response." Pride and duty war within Tezak. The emperor had ordered the humans' extinction. Retreat now would mean disgrace, possibly execution. But before he could respond, his tactical officer called out in alarm. "Sir, energy spike from the orbital platforms." The platforms around Earth had begun to glow, power building to levels that overloaded the Keldari sensors. You should have listened the first time, Commander, Chen said quietly. We warned you. Once you fight humans, there's no escape. The platforms fired, not at the Selder ships, but at points in space around them. Space itself seemed to ripple and tear, forming swirling vortices that pulled at the Keldari vessels. If gravity wells, Tezak shouted. Evasive maneuvers. But it was too late. Ships at the fleet edges were already being dragged into the vortices, their engines straining against forces they were never designed to resist. What is this technology? Tezak demanded. A combination, actually, Chen replied. Almost conversational now. Crickle gravity manipulation, Jolari phase technology, and some human innovations. We call them space anchors. They trap you in place while we decide what to do with you. The Allied fleet began to move, surrounding the immobilized Keelari ships. Now, Commander Chen continued, you have a choice: unconditional surrender or total destruction. And I should warn you, even if you personally choose surrender, we cannot guarantee that all your captains will comply. Some of your ships have already opened fire. Indeed, several Calder vessels have begun firing desperately at the gravity wells, their weapons having no effect. Others had turned their guns on the approaching Allied ships, which returned fire with devastating precision. Tezak watched as Keldari vessels, the pride of the Empire, were systematically disabled or destroyed. Not in glorious battle, but like animals caught in a trap. Cease fire, he ordered over the fleet-wide channel. All vessels, cease fire immediately. Slowly, the Kiri weapons fell silent. A wise decision, Chen said. Now about those terms of surrender. 3 standard years later, Vexor stood on the observation deck of the human diplomatic vessel Reconciliation, watching as representatives from 27 formerly conquered species signed a galactic cooperation treaty. The Kilder Empire was gone, not destroyed, but transformed. Its conquered worlds liberated, its military dismantled, its government restructured under the supervision of the new Galactic Council. Beside him stood General Chen, now Ambassador Chen, her uniform replaced with more formal diplomatic attire. Does it satisfy you? She asked, nodding toward the ceremony. Seeing them brought low, Vexilor considered the question. I thought it would. For years, all I wanted was revenge against the Keldari, against all who had wronged my people. But this, he gestured to the gathering, this is better. Peace often is, Chen agreed. Though it took us humans a long time to learn that lesson ourselves. And yet, you were ready for war, Vexor observed. Your defenses, your alliances, your weapons, you prepared as though conflict was inevitable. An old human saying, hope for peace, prepare for war. Chen smiled slightly. We learned through our own bloody history that disarmament comes after stability, not before it. Vexilor turned to face her fully. Why did you spare me? After I led those fleets to Earth, used them as distractions, you could have executed me as a war criminal. We considered it, Chen admitted. But we recognized something in you. The same desperation we felt ourselves. The will to survive at any cost. It's what makes humanity dangerous. But it's also what helped us understand you. The ceremony below concluded. Representatives from former enemies now cautiously shaking hands, tentacles, and various appendages in newly forged alliances. They still fear you. You know, Vexilor said quietly. All of them, even your allies. I know, Chen nodded. But we're hoping that in time, fear will be replaced by respect, and eventually by trust. And if it's not? Vexilor asked. If some new threat emerges, some species that cannot be reasoned with. Chen's expression hardened momentarily, a glimpse of the military commander beneath the diplomat's exterior. Then they'll learn what you already know. Once you fight humans, there's no escape. We'll do whatever it takes to protect what we've built here. She gestured to the gathering below, all of it. Vexor nodded slowly. The humans remained paradoxical to him, capable of both tremendous destruction and remarkable compassion. Warriors who craved peace, conquerors who liberated. Perhaps that was their true strength. Not their technology or their tenacity, but their adaptability, their capacity to be whatever the moment required. I warned them, he said finally. The Keter, I told them what would happen if they attacked you. Yes, Chen agreed. You did. And in doing so, you helped create this moment. She nodded toward the ceremony below. Perhaps that can be your legacy, rather than the fleets you once led to our doorstep. As the new Galactic Council prepared to convene its first official session, Vexilor found himself hoping she was right. The galaxy had changed irrevocably since humanity's emergence onto the cosmic stage. Empires had fallen, alliances had formed, and a new order was taking shape. One built not on conquest, but on cooperation, all because someone had finally heeded the warning. Once you fight humans, there's no escape. Not from their wrath, and not from their mercy either.